So today I just want to share with you just a little bit kind of about that. I'm really excited to be here, talking to the parents, to the coaches, to the players. I think the message that I'm going to share with you today, I believe, is the most important message that you're going to hear. I know you're here for the basketball and you're here for some of the other things, but I think this is the most important message that you're going to hear. I think it's one of the most important messages that you're going to hear in your lifetime. And so I just ask you, I know you guys are interested in probably watching the videos and getting some basketball, but I ask for your attention for a few minutes as I talk a little bit about my topic. I love movies. I think movies are a great way to kind of talk about life. I love watching movies and kind of talk, and I think they tell you so many different things. And one of my favorite movies is a movie called The Matrix. Has anybody seen The Matrix? You guys ever seen the movie The Matrix? Who are some of the characters in The Matrix? Neo. Who else? Morpheus. Who else? Trinity, Tank, Oracle. How many people seen The Matrix? All right, so somebody, if you haven't seen The Matrix, you gotta see this movie. It's on TV all the time. And so The Matrix is a movie that's a science fiction movie. It's set, thousands of years into the future. And in the Matrix movie, what happens is that the computers have taken over the world. So it's hard to believe right now, but computers run the world and the humans are the servants. And so the computers have created this software program whereby the humans live inside the software program. And so basically all the human beings have been programmed and they've been spoon-fed and they've been brainwashed to believe that this is what reality is all about, when in fact, the Matrix has been created for them and it's all a lie. And what I believe is that as men in our society, that we have been brainwashed, spoon-fed, and programmed to believe certain things about what it means to be a man. I believe that we, from a young age, have heard all these messages about this is what it means to be a man from our society. And for the most part, they're all lies. And we live in a matrix. So we live in a matrix where the world is telling us this is what it means. And if I gave all of you a piece of paper and a pen, and I asked you, write down, what does it mean to be a man? Write down, what does it mean? What are the essential things that a man says and a man does? If I asked you to write those things down, I think you'd have a hard time doing it. I think just about everybody would have a hard time. I think it'd be hard for the coaches, for the parents, because that's not something we typically think about. About 5 years ago, I sat down to write out, what does it mean to be a man? Man, I came up with basically nothing. I had to start all over. There's 3 fundamental lies that we are taught from a young age in our society about what it means to be a man. And I think it's important for us all to know what those things are. So when we see those things, we can identify those things and know that they're not true. And the 3 things are this. From a young age, the first thing that we're taught is to be a man in our society means that you need to make a lot of money, that you need to have a lot of bank, that you need to drive a big car, that you need to have a big house, that you need to have all that stuff. And I gotta tell you, that having all that stuff is not what being a man is all about. That's a lie. The second thing that we're taught right from the beginning is that to be a man means that you have to have a lot of ladies, that you have to have sexual conquest, that you need to be able to bring women close to you, use them for your own gratification, for your own pleasure, and for your own joy, and then discard them. That's what we learn on just about every commercial that we see. When you watch a sporting event, look at those commercials. Watch that message. It's there all the time. That's a lie. And the third message that we hear is, and you guys are living this right now, is that to be a man in our society means that you need to be a sports star. That you need to be able to hit home runs, score baskets, score touchdowns, and that's what a man is all about in our society. And as you know, that being able to do all those things does not, no matter how good you are, does not make you a man. So what does it mean? What does it mean to be a man in our society? Those are the things that, what it doesn't mean. What does it mean? Well, you know what? Tim talked about having a game plan for basketball. He's talked to you about saying, okay, if I want to be an NBA player, if I want, whatever your goal might be, having a plan for what it means to be a basketball player, how you can become the best basketball player. And it's important to have a plan. Well, I would say to you, it's just as important, if not more important, to say, I need to have a plan for who I want to be as a man. Because I tell you what, if we don't have that plan, then we're going to get sucked right into the other false lies about masculinity. So it's critically important to have a game plan, not only for basketball, but you need to have a game plan for your manhood, for being for your masculinity. And so in my case, I told you about 5 years ago, I sat down and wrote this out. And in my paradigm, in my faith tradition, the perfect man that was a representation of masculinity in my life was Jesus. And Jesus was all man and he was all God. And I tell you what, when I look at the scriptures and I read the Bible, and everybody might have a different perspective on their faith, but as I read the Bible, I see how a man lives and how a man acts. And so when I kind of came up with my guideposts or my actions of a man, that was where I looked. And every day as I read the scriptures and look further in, I see how Jesus lived, acted, and how he cared about other people. And I said, that's the kind of man that I want to be. So I want to share with you just, when I went through my journey, just 6 things that really kind of marked what I think a man looks like. And like I said, when I sat down and first mapped that out, I didn't have anything. I could not define what it means to be a man. I had no game plan. And that was 5 years ago. Man, I wish somebody would have told me this a long time ago. Because every day when I want to get sucked this way, I know what my plan is. So the 6 actions of a man. The first one is this. The first action of man is to accept responsibility. And I know that many of our lives, it's popular to be chill and to be able to do your own thing and to be able to be kind of, not doing anything. And I know for me, my natural thing is when things get tough, what I want to do is I want to grab a bag of potato chips, go sit on the couch and watch the ball game. And what I know is that a man is meant to show up, stand up, and speak up. We all know there's things that we need to do in our lives. And when we have that urge to go the other direction, we need to step in to the things that we know we need to do. We need to accept that responsibility. The second thing is that we need to lead courageously. God gave us this strength and this power as men to be able to bring goodness and order to this world. And how often do we use that? When we see people in our lives that are being victimized or marginalized, what do we do? Do we step in that? Are we the ones that are somehow doing that to other people? We need to use that strength and that power to bring goodness to this world as men. So leading courageously. The third act of the man is to pretend about nothing. And basically, in essence, it means that we need to be truth tellers, that we need to speak truth and require truth from other people. The fourth one is to journey with God. Now, I can tell you this in my own life, that there's been nothing more exciting, more thrilling in my life than to watch God do extraordinary things through me, to do things that I could not do on my own accord, but to watch Him do that through me. And so I would just say one of the greatest thrills in our life is having an opportunity to watch God do amazing things through us. And so I would say that's something that I would just encourage you guys all to be thinking about. The fifth characteristic of man is to protect your heart. And I tell you what, in this world, man, there's so many things that can drag us down. There's so many things that we can do, but you know what? We choose what we watch. We choose what we put in our brain, and what we put in our brain affects our hearts. We get to choose those things every day. There's lots of different distractions. There's lots of different things that are sucking us in that direction. But man, we have the ability to choose that. And we want to be able to protect our hearts from the things that are destructive in our lives. That is huge. And it's important for us to be able to remember that. I got to say something. I hear this all the time from young men. They say, I can handle that. I can handle that. And I got to tell you something, man. I can't handle that. There are so many things in this world that you guys are getting involved in or that you're being tempted in. And you know what? I got to tell you, I can't handle that stuff. I got to stay away from it. All these guys have to stay away from it because that's going to drag you down. You can't handle it. It's going to take you in a bad place. And one of the things I would say is if you're involved in pornography, like I hear that a lot from young men. Oh, I can handle that. It's no big deal. But man, that goes nowhere good. I'll tell you that right now. That goes nowhere good. And And a lot of things that seem like they're not a big deal to begin with, take it to bad places very quickly. So protecting your heart and knowing what you're doing, what you're putting in your mind and your body is really important. And the last thing, the last action of a man is to engage in deep and meaningful relationships. What we've learned is that a man, what a man is not, is a man that makes a lot of money, gets a lot of women, and is a sports star. That doesn't make you a man. That's not what makes you a man. It's the other stuff. Last week we talked about the importance of something that most men don't talk about. We talked about men are supposed to have feelings and emotions. And in order to have relationships with other people and friendships, you need to be able to have feelings and emotions. We've been taught from a young age, as men, and from a little boy, we were taught when you fall down and skin your knee, get up, stop crying, be a man. Well, I gotta tell you, that's wrong. Because you know what? Men share their feelings and their emotions, and that's how you have relationships. And the basis of life is having relationships with other people. I got to share with you something that's really, really important today. Something that we're going to talk about later. Kalima's going to talk about this, but I want to talk about it with you a little bit first. This is really important that every man needs to know. Listen closely. Men, we are equal partners with women. We are equal partners with women. That is how God created it to be. That men and women are perfect complements for each other. Men and women are perfect complements. I gotta tell you, when I grew up, I'll be honest with you, I grew up feeling like women were inferior, second rate, and only good for one thing. That's how I grew up. And I'll tell you what, I didn't learn that in my household. I didn't learn that from my folks. I learned that from our culture. Because we've got these messages coming at us all the time saying that women are good for one thing. We watch that on TV, we listen to music. There's still those messages that are coming at us. And women, I tell you, women have made huge progress in the last 50 years. We have women who are CEOs, women who are professors, astrophysicists. We're probably going to have a woman president very soon. So women are making these huge advances, but as a culture, we still treat women, we show women to be less than, and that is false. I was watching the TV the other day, I was watching a ball game, and I saw this commercial come on for a hamburger. And this is what the commercial was. Beautiful woman, one of the most beautiful women you'd ever seen, in this blue dress, looked like she was going out on the town. Picking up a hamburger, this big juicy hamburger from Carl's Jr., and she was bringing it up to her mouth in just this very suggestive way and just took a bite of a hamburger. That was the commercial. Who do you think that commercial was to? Was that to women? No, that was to us. What they're saying is, you know what? You buy our hamburgers, maybe you can get a woman like this. Treating that woman as she was an object and preying on our ability. Man, I tell you, we're visual. We like to see things. Men are visual, and that was what that commercial was all about. What that did is portray that woman as just an object, a sexual object, and not a woman. I gotta tell you something. I think the most damaging and destructive thing that is in our society right now is pornography. And I talk to a lot of young men, I talk to a lot of old men, and you know what they tell me? I can handle that. I can handle it. And I'll tell you what, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're 20, 15, or 80. You can't handle it. Pornography, I'll tell you this right now, if you're involved in pornography, stop. If you've never looked at it, don't do it. Because what it does is rots your brain out and it rots your heart out. And it gives you a false idea of what women are and who they are. Women are equal partners. And I gotta tell you, everybody here, we have this thing on our shoulders called a head. And in our head is a brain. And what we put in our brain, we are in control of. We decide what we put in. And you know what? This thing in our head, this brain, it is like a supercomputer, man. It takes information in and it doesn't let it go until very late. It keeps everything in there. And so what you're doing right now will affect you 20, 30 years from now. What happens is what you put in your brain, music, pornography, whatever, stays there. And what that does, it then filters into your heart. And the heart is the thing that you need to have real relationships. And I got to tell you, one of the most unbelievable, beautiful, and amazing things is to have a relationship with a woman. It's the most amazing thing. And I tell you what, if we're looking at pornography, if we're putting things in our brain that make us believe that women are less than, that are inferior, and only good for one thing, then you can't have a relationship with a woman. You can't experience one of the most beautiful things that was created for us to be able to enjoy. And I tell you what, you don't want to miss out on that. We've been talking over the last 4 weeks that, for me, the perfect representation of manhood in my life has been watching what Jesus did. I look at the way Jesus handled himself as a man, and I go, wow, that's the kind of guy, that's the kind of man that I want to be. And the coolest thing is this, 2,000 years ago, when women were nothing more than just basically slaves in that culture, Jesus treated them as equal. He treated them as equal partners. Jesus was the first feminist that walked the earth. He believed that women were equal to men, and he treated them. In his inner circle, Jesus had women that he relied on and he cared about and he valued. And for me, that is something that I want to be able to make sure that every guy in here knows, no matter what age you are, that women are equal partners and they're to be treated with respect. They're to be treasured and valued. And we never use our power and our strength to be able to keep women down. We use our power and strength to be able to really partner with women. That's how Jesus lived his life. That's the model for us, and that's how we want to be able to make that happen. So that's an intro into what we're going to talk about. When we talk about sex education, that's really important, but this is the whole first part of it, is we want to be able to keep our minds, our hearts pure, so we can be able to give them to a woman one day in a really wonderful, beautiful way. And that's something I wish for every one of you, and it's the greatest thing around. So, thanks, guys.